Did Antonio Pierce and Aidan O'Connell save their job after a win against the New Orleans Saints? I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report. You're watching Overreaction Monday, and we're going to be discussing a lot about AOC, Antonio Pierce, and whether or not the Raiders are still looking to potentially trade up for a quarterback after falling to number 8 in the NFL draft order. I was very upset yesterday when the Raiders beat the Saints. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Now that I wake up this morning, I'm just kind of at the point where I'm just kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm ready for the new year to just roll in here. And I understand that players aren't going to roll over and play dead, that coaches aren't going to sit there and not do their jobs. I totally understand that situation. I'm just not happy with the current situation that we are currently in because of how bad this game has been. With that being said, though, does Antonio Pierce deserve his flowers? Absolutely, because he's still getting this team to go out there and play. Does Aidan O'Connell deserve his flowers? Yeah, absolutely. The guy deserves them because he's still going out there and performing, honestly, at a pretty high level, and he's doing some good things. We're going to talk about all of this, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I want y'all to hit that subscribe button if you're ready for 2025. I'm tired of Raider fans yelling at Raider fans because this guy's not a real fan, that guy's not a real fan. How about this? Pull up in 2025, show up here every single day because I'm going to be here every single day. And if you want to party and have a good time with us on our final live show of the year, tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern time. You better be there. It's going to get wet. It's going to get wild. So let's go. Let's get into Overreaction Monday right now. Aidan O'Connell deserves to be the Raiders starter in 2025 after back-to-back wins over the Jacksonville Jaguars and over the New Orleans Saints. This is an overreaction. Can we celebrate the fact that AOC has done a good job? Yeah, damn it. We absolutely should. It's actually nice to be able to watch good quarterback play because Aidan O'Connell, better than Gardner Minshew. Aidan O'Connell, better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Aidan O'Connell, better than Brian Hoyer. And when you move on from Derek Carr, you need to be able to find somebody that you can replace. The problem is you haven't been able to find anybody that can replace Derek Carr. But if you are planning on moving on from Aidan O'Connell next season, you better find a way to go out and replace him. The reason I'm saying this is an overreaction, though, is because was Aidan O'Connell impressive against the Saints? Yes, he was. But the Saints are still a bad football team. And when you watch that team play, I don't know how many games where if Aidan and the Raiders played their exact game that they played yesterday against New Orleans, if they come away with a win, unless that team is as bad as what the New Orleans Saints are currently right now. Now, 20 of 35, decent, made a few good throws, missed a few easy ones, but overall, you had to like what you see. 242 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did throw a ball or two into very dangerous areas with Tehran, the Honey Badger, which could have ended in a pick. But what he did do that I loved is he extended plays, clutch throws on third down, and showed you that he is getting better and better and better, which is important. Let's go to another reason, though, why this is an overreaction. The Raiders have won 2 straight games. But if the Raiders beating a Jacksonville Jaguars team led by Mac Jones and a Raiders team that took care of business against New Orleans, that their quarterback is Spencer Rattler, if that's the pedestal of what we are holding ourselves for in terms of what we are trying to beat and be successful for, that's not commitment to excellence. That is the exact opposite of commitment to excellence. And was Aidan good against Jacksonville? He was okay. 24, 38, 257 yards. Did the Raiders move the football? Yeah, a little bit, but that's still a game that you won 19-14 against the Jags team that's one of the worst football teams in the National League. Now, I will also say this. The offense is clearly better with Aidan under center. It's clearly better with Scott Turner as OC. So I think anybody, and I think we can all agree, Luke Getsy was a terrible decision. I would like to see what this Raiders offense with Aidan O'Connell would have looked like at the beginning of the season. I can take the L. I'll take the egg on my face for thinking that Gardner Minshew could be better than Aidan. I'll also say this, though. I am kind of curious what Gardner would have looked like in Scott Turner's offense for the entirety season because I don't think it was just a Gardner issue. I do think it was a lot of a Luke Getsy issue. But numbers don't lie. And Aidan has shown you a lot of growth this season with Scott Turner, his 4th play caller in just 2 years. I know that there's been a stacked deck against Aidan his entire career, from the moment he was in high school, from the moment he was in college, to the moment that he's in the NFL. And I know a lot of Raider fans out there after the last 2 games and realistically the past 4 games with Scott Turner. There's a lot of fans out there going, Mitch, if we give Aidan O'Connell a full offseason, Mitch, if we build around Aidan because he's only making $1.2 million next season, Mitch, if we get a better OC, we have the tools. We need to put more around our quarterback because we're not just a quarterback away. I hear all of those people out there, but my personal opinion is it is an overreaction to say that Aidan O'Connell deserves to be the starting quarterback next season. This is a business decision. So give me a yes or a no. Will Aidan O'Connell be the Raiders starter next season? This is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. Scroll on down. Give me your answer. My answer is going to be coming up after this YouTube ad break. If I was a betting man, I would say that the most likely option to be the starting quarterback for the Raiders next season is Aidan O'Connell. But that's because the Raiders now are at pick number 8. There's a lot of unknowns for the free agency trades. There's a lot of unknowns in March that could lead up to April. But then also at the same time, if you're an organization, you got to go, is Aidan O'Connell good? Let's say he's good. But I want great. I want commitment to excellence. And if you have an opportunity to get better at the quarterback position, you're not doing your job as an organization if you do that. I'm happy for Aidan, but I also want to just win, baby, and I want to find a franchise quarterback. So Aidan O'Connell, did he save his job? Kind of. I mean, he's definitely going to be back next season, but he's not going to be the quarterback one. At least I wouldn't want him to be. But the betting favorite? Absolutely. What about Antonio Pierce, though? Did AP save his job? These players are playing hard. You see a lot of guys hyping up AP right now. I'm going to tell you whether or not I think Antonio Pierce saved his job with back-to-back wins. But before I do, I got to give a shout-out to Zbiotics. I had a little bit of the hiccups yesterday when we were live on the Raiders Report, and that's because I might have partied a little bit too hard, and I don't bounce back the way that I used to. Well, that is until I found Zbiotics pre-alcohol. I don't know if you guys noticed, I feel great this morning, and it's because of Zbiotics. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Whether it's from Thanksgiving feasts to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season is packed with events, but don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help you savor the night and seize the next day. So, stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can also scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code chatsports at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter what time or the occasion. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code chatsports at checkout for 15% off. Thank you to Zbiotics for sponsoring on the Raiders Report and helping the good times keep it a-rolling. Antonio Pierce, is he saving his job? This is also an overreaction. Am I proud of AP getting these players to go out there and play? I am, and that might surprise a lot of people because I have been Team Tank. But I'm Team Tank because I am a Raiders fan that wants the best for the future. I am not mad at any player or coach for doing their job, especially when you are paid as much money as what you are paid to do. But winning back-to-back games against the Saints and the Jaguars should not be why you're going to keep your job. I would say it's like this. You got a deadbeat dad, and I'm not saying AP is anything like this, but if you got a deadbeat dad that shows up and let's say week 15 and 16, let's say he buys you a few nice things for Christmas, maybe he buys you a few nice things for Hanukkah, and then he's going to leave again, right? Like, I don't think that past 2 wins, we can totally forget about how bad the 2024 offseason was, how bad the 2024 season has been. And the Raiders players showing that they aren't quitting on the season or AP is a cool thing to do because there's a lot of other teams out there that are not going out there and playing their hardest, that aren't putting the best players out there. That's not what the Raiders are doing. And I know that Antonio Pierce is under contract next season. He said it a few weeks ago, but the writing has been on the wall. And it's just the hard truth. You got to give Antonio Pierce and the Raiders credit for not giving up. But moving on from AP at this point, it is simply just a business decision. I am trying to get better in the year 2025, and one of the ways that you assure that you don't let history repeat itself is you learn from it. Is Antonio Pierce an awesome dude? Yeah, man, I think he's a really good coach. but not everybody is head coach material. If you put Antonio Pierce on a staff, he's going to fire up a lot of people, and AP's going to get another job in the NFL. But you can't let 2 bad wins make you forget about an entire season. You can't let 2 bad wins trip you up on being able to have a more successful future. I know Dan Campbell was bad in year 1. But look at what Antonio Pierce has done from a product standpoint this entire season. And yeah, he's been given a bad hand. He hasn't played that hand well. I'm telling y'all right now, if Mike Vrabel wants the job, it's going to be Mike Vrabel's job. If Vrabel doesn't want it, then it's going to be a little bit more interesting, because after winning 2 games, this job is a little bit less desirable than what it once was. But Mike Vrabel is the guy Brady wants. Mike Vrabel was the dude that was circulating last offseason. And Mike Vrabel, I am about 99% sure, is going to be the Raiders head coach next season, unless he doesn't want it. Coming up, will the Raiders try to trade up for a quarterback? We're sitting here at number 8 now. I mean, think about it. 2 weeks ago, I was like, yo, number 1 pick, have it roll on down. Are the Raiders, though, still thinking about trading up to number 1? We'll talk about it here in just a moment. I do want to give a shout-out, though, to our Week 17 MVPs. Seriously, Sam On was an absolute legend. Venthrak, absolute legend. We had a tie for our Week 17 MVP shootout. So, to Sam On, Venthrak, I hope you guys were there tomorrow. First person to bang between you two tomorrow. I'm just saying, you're going to be the Week 17 MVP, and you're going to get everything that comes along with it. Let's go to the final story here on today's show. Will the Raiders try to trade up for a quarterback in the 2025 NFL Draft? This is a believe it, baby. For just win, babies, it's going to happen. I'll say this. I'm not sitting up here going, the Raiders are 100% going to trade up. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that there is a 100% chance that they are going to try, that they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to say, hey, what does it cost to get up to number 1? Hey, what are you hearing around league circles? Hey, do you think we could get a Shedeur Sanders here, a Cam Ward here? I promise you this. The Raiders are going to do it because it's their job. And because the Raiders have just functioned, like most NFL teams should of, it's my job. If you're going to be Antonio Pierce, if you're going to be these players and you're going to say, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to play our hearts out, we're not going to be team tank, okay? We're going to go out there, we're going to do everything in our power to win in the regular season. That's fine. I'm just asking you also to do that exact same thing in the offseason. And a good GM, Tom Brady, Tom Telesco, head coach, is going to do everything in their power to figure out the asking price to potentially trade up, but it doesn't mean that they're going to do it. I did say last month in a video that the Raiders are going to be more aggressive this offseason than they were last season for a quarterback. The Raiders were at number 13 last season. They tried to get up to number 2 for Jaden Daniels. No teams were willing to budge. I'll admit, when I was told this, I don't know if people that I was talking to really thought that the Raiders are going to be picking down at 8, but I know for a fact this is a team that is going to be very, very concentrated on trying to get a QB, and they're going to draft at least 1 in the draft. Guaranteed. I don't know where, but they're going to take at least 1. And then with that current number 8 pick, you're going to have to go up. I said last week that the Raiders could be a team that might have to pay $20 for a gallon of milk that they could have had for $4, and that's just kind of the way that it goes when you run into meaningless wins. I'm going to keep calling them meaningless because it's not going to do anything for us this year, but, you know, sure, it builds up some morale going into next season. Whoop-de-frickin-do. What'd you say, Chugs? Yeah, this is according to Tankathon, and I would say this is the one that you want to be looking at if you're a Raiders fan, simply because they have strength of schedule a little bit more accurate. But if you're sitting there at number 8 and you want to try to trade up, I'm telling y'all right now, the only 2 options that the Raiders are going to consider trading up for, Shedeur Sanders is option 1. I'm just going to put option 2 in there as Cam Ward because I have said since last March that Cam Ward's my favorite quarterback in this year's class, that Ward is the best QB coming out of the draft, and if it was up to me, I would take Cam Ward. The problem is, or not the problem, Tom Brady's the one going to be calling the shots. The Raiders are looking at Shedeur Sanders, and are they still looking at Dylan Gabriel? Yeah, that's later on. I'm talking about the only 2 QBs that the Raiders would be even considering trading up for would be a Cam Ward, would be a Shedeur Sanders. Now, I understand that some people are probably going, well, Mitch, what exactly do you think that that's going to cost? It's going to cost a lot, and I'm going to get into that here in just a moment, but we got to think about the entire picture here. Does Aidan O'Connell deserve to be the starter in 2025? No, he doesn't. That's an overreaction. He's going to be a really good backup, But if I was the Raiders, I wouldn't go out and try to maybe sign a big-time QB in the offseason. You roll into the draft with AOC, and if you got to get a little bit desperate, you could do that. Did Antonio Pierce save his job? He did not. He's more than likely gone. But are the Raiders going to try to trade up for a quarterback? Yeah, I believe so. What I'm going to show you here is what I think it would cost to move up to number one. I don't know if the Raiders are going to be a team that does try to move up to number one. I could see them actually trying to play a little bit more of a backseat, let some other teams pick some players. And if a guy like Shador, a guy like Cam is there, maybe they get aggressive. Because for me personally, this is a lot to give up, and I still don't even know if it's enough, right? Like, this is a year where I actually think that the number one pick is worth way, way less than what it was last season. So you're not going to have to give up as much as what you saw last year. But in a year for the Raiders, would you give up your first, your second, and your third, so you still have another third-round pick, your first and your second next season, and then you're also going to give up Colton Miller? I would say this is the bare bones minimum of what it would cost to move up to number one. So my question for you is this. Do you want the Raiders to try to trade up to number one for a QB, whether you're a Cam Ward, whether you're a Shador Sanders guy? If you're saying trade, I want you to type trade down below. If you want the Raiders to stay at number 8 and take best player available or whoever the hell it is, I want you to type stay. I don't want the Raiders to overspend, and I have never been somebody that wants the Raiders to overspend. But your top priority this offseason is getting a quarterback. And if you go into the NFL draft with only Aidan O'Connell as your starting quarterback, and that's the asking price, you're going to have to pull the trigger. You made your bed. It's time to lay in it.